Welcome to CC Writes. My name is CC Lepke, and today I am writing my very first script. Last week I used the Dan Harmon method of planning a story to prepare for a short story webcomic contest. This week I took the plot that I came up with and used it to create a detailed summary. Using that detailed summary, I plan to plan out the panels of my webcomic and use it to help me create a script. So far, this different process of writing a story has proven to be a lot easier than what I normally do. I'm hoping that trend will continue this week, and if it does, then I may just have a brand new method of preparing my stories in the future. I'm really excited to find out what this new method of planning my stories could mean for the future of my writing. But I won't know until I try. So then, let's get started. I decided not to go over my detailed summary since I already shared the story in its entirety last week. Basically, to create the detailed summary, I just expanded on the plot I created last week by creating 2 distinct scenes for every single plot point. I had 16 plot points, so I wrote out 32 scenes for this story. The length I chose was based on how long I wanted the story to be in the end. I wanted it to be a 4-chapter story, so to stay in the requirements for the writing contest, each chapter had to be at least 30 pages long. A typical comic averages about 5 panels per page, and for my purposes, each page represents 1 scene in my story. So doing it this way, I made sure that each chapter would have at least 8 scenes, which means 40 panels. By the end, I should have roughly 160 panels to my story. With the length of my story planned out, I needed a way to clearly plan out my panels for the storytelling process. And this is where the story map comes in. A story map organizes your story and helps you to understand each piece that makes the story work. It forces you to think about all of the main actors in a scene, where it takes place, what conflict or problem your characters experience, and what important events take place. All of this information can help you keep your writing concise and focused. It also helps you prevent adding any unnecessary characters or events that might dilute or derail your story. I typically don't use story maps for my writing. For me, it's always seemed like extra work that feels kind of pointless. But I was surprised to find that it was actually a pivotal story building tool. I started to notice problems with my original story that I was able to quickly correct as I filled out the story map. So go figure, writing tools work. Who knew? Filling out the story map is super easy. I made 1 story map for each scene in my story and labeled them by chapter and scene for easy reference. And then I used my detailed summary as a reference and filled out each section. It helped me hone in on what the real conflict was in each scene. If you watched my last video, you know that I tend to harp on the fact that conflict drives the story. There should be some conflict in every scene, and the story map ensured that I could identify what each conflict was and build on that conflict in the subsequent scenes so that it helps the story flow more logically. after I finished the story map, I began working on my script. I used a program called Celtex, which is a free script writing software. It basically formats everything for you so that you can focus on writing a great script instead of wasting your time trying to figure out where all your margins need to be. I have a bit of a confession. I've only played around with this software like 2 or 3 times in my life since I first downloaded it in college. I know very little about script writing and even less about script writing for a comic. Suffice to say, I took a little bit of trial and error to figure out how it all worked. Namely, I couldn't figure out how I was supposed to format the dialogue. Eventually, I got it all figured out, but it took a hot minute. And then I had to go back and correct all of the mistakes I made. The process I used was fairly simple. I used the story map layout to set out the events of each scene with one event per panel. Then I used the detailed summary to fill out the dialogue and extra bits of information to help me know what to draw in each panel. I definitely would not have had it so easy without both of those planning tools ready to go, so I was really happy that I took the time to do it. They gave me the freedom to be creative with how I described the characters and the things that they were doing. It made for a super pleasant writing experience. I decided to only show my first 3 scenes in this video because it's going to take a few more days to write the rest of the script, and I want to have the whole script written before I start working on the art. So for right now, I will leave it here. Thanks for watching CC Writes. I hope you enjoyed your time with me today. If you would like to support my work, you can find my books on Amazon.com. You can also support me by making a donation to the CC Writes Patreon page. There are links in the description below. For more everyday content about my life, my thoughts on writing, and my dog, find me on Twitter at @CCLepkeWrites. And finally, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button so you'll know when the next video comes out. See you later!